kids, what is up? Today is looking a little different, isn't it? We are sitting right next to our parents in service in real life. But don't worry, check it out because we still get service. Living Kids still gets their own service. And today we're still gonna have fun. We're still gonna teach you some fun stories. Today we're talking about Moses parting the Red Sea. Super cool story and we can't wait for you guys to check it out.
What is up, Living Kids? I'm so excited that you're watching us online today. You know, obviously, if you look around the room, it's a little different. We're with all of our friends and our family, and we get to be in an atmosphere together. But, you know what we can't do? Dance. It's a little tricky because we want to worship together with each other, but we don't get to dance and stand up and jump around like we usually do. So, as we go into worship, these next two videos, I want you to watch. I want you to pay close attention and make sure that when you get home, you can do the dances almost perfectly for your parents. So check out these videos, watch them closely, so that way you can learn all by yourself.
Church mother in a church hat clap. Man, that sure gave her color purple coming back clap. When that whole week beat you up and stress you, but you hear that organ playing and remind you of your blessings. And on another note, she just hit another note. Chills down my spine, got me crying, make me overload. You don't know about it though. Old school church hymns, deacons get the humming, now the drummer finna burst in. Lordy, Lordy, Lord. Can you hear me now? Church close, sweater, you don't care, you just get it now. Testify how we made martyrs out of these fathers and rose up all of his daughters to glorify him with honor. Man, I swear Thomas Jones with her head did. Now it's flying everywhere, she don't care what her head did. She an egg, yeah, caught up in the egg, yeah. Probably why she clapping like Jesus just reappeared, yeah. Give me that God Almighty, that good old gospel, that old school doctrine. Give me that truth for the body, ain't nothing new about it, but it's still full of power. Church clap, let me hear the church clap. 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 I wanna be the type of dude to get the Lord on his feet. I wanna do the type of shows that the Lord wanna see. What I mean, if I can make the whole church clap, but ain't a clap in the heavens, then that clap's just a clap, clap. For his son glorified, sin mortified. The Holy Spirit going word, that truth ain't watered down. It's sound doctrine, gets birthed in the common now. Nothing wrong with singing loud, but that ain't where the power's on. The church has been clapping their weak sermons, leaving the weak hurt. No one's changed by Sunday service. We need discernment, check what you be affirming, cause the church can be full of members but empty in conversion. Preach the gospel and stand back, look for changed lives, not for hand claps. Love people well, oh they can't stand at the church, just the church with the words where we stand at. Give me that God Almighty, that good old gospel, that old school doctrine. Give me that truth for the body, ain't nothing new about it, but it's still full of power. Church clap, let me hear the church clap. 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 Come on.
He's the one who makes the sun shine. He's the one who puts the moon in the sky. He's the one who hung the stars one by one. He's the one who makes the birds sing. He's the one who makes your dreams so high. He's the one who makes me man, you're not an alien, you're not from Krypton, you're not a figment of my imagination, of my imagination. You're not a fairy tale, you're not make-believe, you came from heaven to be the friend that I can always count on, that I can always count on. Hear me shout it out! Jesus is better than any superhero. Jesus is my best friend, whoa, whoa. Jesus is better than any superhero. Jesus is my best friend, whoa, whoa. You are the hero, you are the good guy, you are the savior, and I know that you're always gonna be there. Yeah, you're always gonna be there. When I'm in danger, when I'm in trouble, when I'm surrounded, well, I know that it's you that I can count on, that I can always count on. Hear me shout it out! Jesus is better than any superhero. Jesus is my best friend, whoa, whoa. Jesus is better than any superhero. Jesus is my best friend, whoa, whoa. Stronger than Superman, faster than the Flash, bigger than the Hulk, man. Jesus, what a friend. Stronger than Superman, faster than the Flash, bigger than the Hulk, man. Jesus, what a friend. Stronger than Superman, faster than the Flash, bigger than the Hulk, man. Jesus, what a friend. Stronger than Superman, faster than the Flash, bigger than the Hulk, man. Jesus, what a friend.
God's people left Egypt. They marched out into the desert. God did something very special to help them. He sent a tall cloud to guide them during the day. It was very dark in the desert at night, so God changed the cloud to fire. It was like a giant nightlight. Now God's people could travel, some during the day and some at night. Back in Egypt, Pharaoh had changed his mind about letting God's people leave. He sent his army after the Israelites to bring them back. Closer and closer, the army of horses and chariots came. God's people stood right by the Red Sea. There was no way across the water. Pharaoh's soldiers were behind them, and the sea was in front of them. It looked as if they were trapped. Just then, God moved the tall cloud behind his people to hide them from the enemy. The Egyptians couldn't see anything. The cloud made it dark for them, but it gave light to God's people on the other side of the cloud. Then Moses raised his hand over the sea. All night, God pushed back the sea with a strong wind, and the water split to make a dry path to the other side. The Israelites safely reached the other side, but when the Egyptian army tried to use the same path, the water came back together and covered the soldiers. And that was the end of Pharaoh's army.
Hey living kids, what is up? It is Carly back at you again. And today, I know we are in service in real life with our parents, not at normal at home and stuff. But today, I decided since we can't do our normal crafts with Carly at home chilling, let's do something creative and fun and cool and still show you how I can explain the story of Moses parting the Red Sea. Let's go. Okay, so the first part of the story is about Pharaoh and his army chasing right behind the Israelites, ready to go to battle. Guys, just picture how the Israelites were feeling right now. They were super scared, super scattered, didn't know how to feel because the Romans were right behind them, chasing them, and didn't know how to feel. But Moses came to them and said, do not be afraid, because they put their trust in the Lord, guys. They had nothing to fear because it was all in the trust of God. There was no need to fear anything that was chasing behind them, because they were going forward and looking to what was in the future. Okay, guys. The next part of the story is super crazy. So Moses and the Israelites come up to the Red Sea. They see all of this water and they don't know what to do. They feel trapped. They feel hopeless because obviously there's an ocean right in front of them and they have an army chasing right after them, right behind them, and they don't know what to do. But guess what? God came down and told Moses to lift up his staff. And Moses listened to God. He lifted up his staff and the Red Sea parted. It was crazy. They didn't know what to think, but they listened to God and they walked right through the Red Sea. And it was no water. They were completely safe. And as soon as they got through, the waves crashed back down on the army and Pharaoh. And the problem was over because they listened to God. And Moses did exactly what he said. And the water came crashing down. Boom, boom. And the problem was over. Because they listened to God and they did exactly what he said. And they put their trust in him from the very beginning. And they never put their trust in anybody else because they knew that God could handle the situation no matter what. And so after Moses and the Israelites left the Red Sea and got out safely and went to where they were supposed to go, God had them from the very first part. Just know, living kids, that you can put your trust in God no matter what. Anything that's chasing behind you, just remember to look toward the future and think what God's thinking and know that he's got you.
God told Moses to go to Pharaoh and to do exactly as he said. So Moses and Aaron went to the Pharaoh. Hey! God told them to take the staff and throw it down before Pharaoh. Huh? Pharaoh was not impressed. He called his wise men and sorcerers, and they did the same thing. Hooga, hooga. But Aaron's staff swallowed up the sorcerer's staff. Yet Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not listen to them. Shoot, shoot. Just as God had said. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go to the banks of the Nile River and meet Pharaoh." Hey, Pharaoh! Oh, man. Moses and Aaron did just as God had said. But again, Pharaoh's magicians did the same miracle, and Pharaoh refused to let God's people go. So God sent 9 more plagues to Egypt to show his power. Even with all the suffering, Pharaoh's heart stayed hard, and he would not let the people go. On the night of the last plague, Pharaoh woke up and heard a great cry in Egypt. For there was not a house in Egypt where someone was not dead. Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and told them to be gone with the Israelites. So the Israelites left Egypt immediately and made their way to the Promised Land, taking with them many riches from Egypt, and they took Joseph's bones as they had promised him many years before. But after they had gone, Pharaoh changed his mind and readied his army to take back the Israelites. When the Israelites saw Pharaoh and his armies come, They were terrified. But God made a way for them. Through all of this, the Israelites saw the great power of their God, the one true God, and they put their trust in Moses, his servant.
Oh, hey living kids, how are you? Hey, I'm just reading my Bible and I'm reading about Moses and Pharaoh. Man, it's such a really good story.
Hey, who are you?
Oh, hey George, it's Aaron. You remember me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've met a while ago. You remember?
Yep.
Yeah, hey, I'm just reading a story about Moses and Pharaoh. Do you want to read it with me?
Sure, why not?
All right, cool. Sounds good. Let's do it. Again, it's a story about Moses and Pharaoh, and back in those days and ages, they were rulers, and then they were people that were under other people's rules. And so Pharaoh, in this case, was the ruler back in that day and age. And during this time, he was trying to rule over the Israelites, which is what Moses was. And so I was just reading this story about Moses and the Israelites and Pharaoh and his army. So let's pick it up there. Want to?
Sure.
All right, cool. Moses and Aaron, his brother, went to Pharaoh's palace because God had something for them to say to him. You must let the Israelites go free, Pharaoh, or if you don't, God's wrath will be upon you and he will punish you. So Pharaoh said, "No, I do not know your God." Then he made the Israelites work even harder.
That's not good.
No, it's not. Israelites were under the rule of Pharaoh and his army, and so they had them working slave labor basically day in and day out, and it wasn't good for the Israelites or Moses at all.
Oh, man.
Yeah. God wasn't pleased by this. So he changed the main river that goes through town to blood. Pharaoh did not even care. "I will never let the Israelites go," he said.
Ew.
Yeah. Then God sent frogs to Egypt. Yeah, a ton of them. Frogs everywhere. They were sitting in chairs, hopping up the stairs, jumping all over the beds, all the stuff. It was
I've
crazy.
seen a frog before in my front yard.
You did? Mm-hmm. Imagine that frog times like 1,000,000 because they were
Whoa.
everywhere in Egypt.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that would be crazy. So Pharaoh said, whoa, take the frogs away and I will let your people, the Israelites, go. So God took the frogs away. But then Pharaoh changed his mind and he said, no, I will not let the Israelites go. And so then God sent more plagues to Egypt. First came the pesky gnats, then came the frenzy of flies. Next, the animals got all sick and died, and then the Egyptian skin broke out into sores all over their bodies.
Oh, man. Yeah,
Yeah, it was crazy. Damaging hailstorms came, then swarms of bugs like locusts, the ones that make loud noises. They came and ate up all of their crops that they were planning on eating for the next season. Then darkness covered everything. Everything got dark. And sometimes Pharaoh said that he would let the people go, but then he would change his mind again.
What?
Yep. But then after God took away each plague, Pharaoh changed his mind again and said, no, I won't let your people go. And so Moses had one last final message from God to Pharaoh. He said, if you don't let my people go, then the firstborn son in each Egyptian family will die.
Whoa.
Yeah. Pharaoh refused to listen, so he kept his promise. So God kept his promise. Pharaoh said, finally, go now. And so Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt. So that was a big thing, right? It's something that the Israelites were constantly under the Pharaoh's rule, and they were basically slaves having to do all their hard work during the day. And so finally they were out of there. And so Moses was in charge of leading the Israelites out of Egypt. And so when that happened, a lot of people were kind of wondering, well, where are we gonna go? Where are we gonna go? And so Moses was in charge, and God spoke to Moses to basically direct him where to go. And that's where this picks up in Exodus 14. It says, Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt, and during the day, God went ahead of them in a big pillar or a wall of clouds.
Whoa.
So when you think about it, there's a lot of times in my life, I don't know about yours, but I don't know where I'm going all the time. And so these days we kind of use GPS or we use maps or something like that that kind of directs us where to go, right? Guess what? They didn't have that back then. And so God just spoke to Moses and said, this is the direction I want you to go. And by doing that, he made him a sign, basically a big wall or pillar of clouds during the day. And guess what they did at night when they were walking?
What did they do?
Well, they walked and followed a big wall or pillar of fire that God provided. Yeah. So when you're walking during the day, they were looking at this big wall of clouds. But then when they're walking at night, they're like, man, it's so dark. But guess what? God provided, even at nighttime, he made this huge wall of fire so that way they knew the right direction to go.
So they can see.
Yeah, so they can see, and they knew where they were going. So God continued to let the Israelites to the edge, all the way to the edge of the Red Sea. And as they were going to the Red Sea, they're getting closer and closer to the sea, and everybody in the Israelites camp were looking at each other saying, okay, well, once we get to the Red Sea, well, what do we do then? Because, hello, there's water, we can't walk on water, so what do we do? And then they realized that Pharaoh never really let them go all the way because he sent his army to chase after the Israelites.
What?
Yes, that's kind of scary, right? Yeah. Literally, the people that were basically making you work back in Egypt all the time, and you were kind of the slave to them. Now they're chasing after you because they're mad because Pharaoh let them go. So now they're chasing after them. And as they're getting,
not good at all.
it's not good. And as they're getting closer to the Israelites are starting to sweat it. They're like, whoa, what do we do here? Right?
Yeah.
Because they were just seeing them come closer and closer, and now they're right up against the Red Sea. So they screamed, we are trapped. What have you done to us, Moses? Moses said, do not be afraid. God will protect us. God's cloud right then came down in between the Israelites and Pharaoh's army, and they couldn't see anything. Pretty crazy, right? You've got a big group of Israelites that are kind of stuck between the Red Sea and the upcoming army of Pharaoh, and they're like, where do we go? We have nowhere to go. And then all of a sudden, God provided again, just like he did a little bit earlier, where he would put that wall of clouds to direct them where to go, and then that big wall of fire to kind of direct them where to go during the nighttime. And now God did it again. He came and brought a huge cloud of dust and debris, so that way the Israelites were separated from Pharaoh's army, and the Pharaoh's army couldn't see them because of all of the dust. And so God told Moses, raise your staff over the Red Sea. Then the Lord pushed back the sea to make a path for the Israelites.
What?
So, Moses and the Israelites followed the path that God provided to them through the sea and to the other side. But Pharaoh's army followed close behind because they said, look, let's just take the same path that the Israelites take, so that way we can catch up to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty crazy, right? But it's amazing how the Red Sea just parted right where the Israelites were standing so they could just walk right on through and not even get wet. It's pretty cool. But once they got to the other side of the Red Sea, Moses raised his staff again, and the sea swept away Pharaoh and his army. Yeah, it's so amazing. Moses and all of the Israelites sang praises to God, and they said, they are free. We are free indeed. They weren't slaves to Pharaoh and his army anymore. Isn't that really cool? So, when I look back at this story about Moses and Pharaoh and the Israelites, I realize, man, God will provide. God will make a way when there is no way, right? It's amazing. I mean, I'm telling you, I know if I were an Israelite back then and I was in that group, I know I'd be sweating it because I'm thinking, all right, we finally got out of Egypt. We finally got away from Pharaoh and his army, and now we're free. But then we see him chasing after us, and now we're stuck between them and the Red Sea. And I'm thinking, man, I'm sweating. How am I going to get out of this? And amazingly, God provided a way when there seemed to be no way. And so that's the really cool part about this is that, hey, throughout our lives, when we're not sure what to do, we're not sure where to go, we're not sure who to talk to, it's always best to look to God and pray to God and say, God, help me, be with me, because He is. But if we just pray to Him and look for His direction, He will provide it. Just like He did with the fire at nighttime to direct their path, and the clouds during the daytime, again, to direct their path. And then even when it looked like they were like, man, I feel like God didn't direct us to the right place, God provided by opening those seas up so they could walk right through it. And so that's the thing. If you're consistent and you are constantly reminded that God is going to direct you and provide for you, then you're going to be okay. You're going to be in the palm of His hand, and He's going to take care of you.
That's awesome.
Isn't it really cool?
Yeah.
Well, George, I hope you had fun, man. I love reading this, and this is a great story, right? Yeah. It'd been really kind of neat to see the Israelites go through this and see how they made it out of Pharaoh's army, right?
Yeah.
That would have been really neat to see. But hey, this is a really great story. Thanks for joining me, George. It was a lot of fun.
Of course.
Yeah. Living Kids, thank you so much for watching too. I hope you enjoyed this story, and I can't wait to see what next stories we're going to read in the upcoming weeks. Have a great day.
Hey guys, I'm Nancy Clancy,
And I'm Jimmy Butler.
and today we're going to be learning the...
Memory verse.
Yes, that's right. I'm so excited because today's verse comes from Exodus 14:14.
Eggs and dust. What?
No, silly Jimmy. Exodus. It's a book in the Bible.
Oh. In Exodus 14:14, it says, "The Lord will fight for you."
The Lord will fight me? Wait a minute. Why is the Lord
No.
gonna fight me? Oh no, do I need to hide?
No. He's gonna fight for you.
Oh, so you're saying that if I have a problem or a struggle in my life, He will help me get through it?
Exactly.
Oh, okay, I think I got it. What's next?
You only need to be still.
Be still. Freeze!
Nancy, are you okay?
I have to be still.
No. Not like that. He just means keep living your life and be patient with Him. And He'll always be with you.
Oh, so I don't need to freeze?
No.
I just have to be patient?
Exactly.
And wait for God to help me through things?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes so much more sense.
Yep.
Okay, I think I got it. But I think we should read it together one more time just so that way I got it.
For sure.
Okay, ready? Go.
The Lord will fight for you. You only need to be still. Exodus 14:14.
Oh my goodness, I think I got it, Jimmy.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you guys so much for doing the memory verse with us today. I had a great time, right, Jimmy?
Oh yeah, super fun.
See you guys next time. Bye!
Bye! Hey Living Kids, thank you so much for having so much fun with us today and learning about how Moses parted the Red Sea. I know it was a little bit different this time, but hey, it was still really fun. We'll see you guys next time. Bye!